Thank you for joining me. This will be my thoughts on The Walking Dead Season 5 Episode 1, No Sanctuary. The episode is rated TVMA, so this video there will be spoilers for the episode and all the ones leading up to it. And yeah, another episode I absolutely fucking loved. So glad to be back to doing this show. Obviously, there was a slight delay since, finishing up Hellstrom, but it was on account of the release of Marvel Zombies rather than a fucking... Of course, I can't remember the word all of a sudden, but the automatic stairs at the UN, which Trump is now confident was sabotaged to make him look bad, because everything that happens that he doesn't like has to be blamed on someone else. Some mysterious stranger that hates him and just wants everything for him to fail. And that's what he's spending his time and your taxpayer dollars on, not improving your lives. But I just want to let you know, I did consider imitating the way that he struggled when the teleprompter wasn't working. But for one thing, I think Seth Meyers did a really solid job mocking that. And I probably freeze up and cause dead air way more than enough already just by accident in these videos. Anyway, yes, so I thought this was yet another really solid season opener, 5 for 5. And right, as in case you are unaware, I have not watched any episode after this one yet. And they I quite appreciated that by the end they are out of the, they're no longer trapped in Terminus, and the let's see, basically everyone has been reunited. And yeah, I am very excited to see what happens in future episodes. I'm not entirely sure if that one guy was telling the truth about there being, what was it, like 6 different directions they're waiting, with guns, because that would certainly make it substantially more difficult. Because I'm pretty sure any one of them would have deduced, okay, something bad went down at Terminus. And yeah, I thought the episode did a good job delivering the things that we want from, let's see, very early in the episode, we have a zombie being killed by Carol, and then a horde of zombies, and not long after you have this thing of the more than once in this episode, there's that line, you're either the butcher or the cattle, I think, something like that. And yeah, the show so far, very much about, can you and should you try to find and nurture humanity when society has collapsed. And yeah, I quite appreciated this thing of Rick wants to kill all of the... So I didn't realize this, but I just read the IMDb trivia for this episode. Apparently they're called termites, which, yeah, considering how absolutely horrible they are, I approve of calling them that. Because, like, obviously you could say, well, they come from Terminus, so termites, but also, it's most of the time, the vast, vast majority of the time, that's a pretty horrible thing. You shouldn't compare human beings to bugs. That's really fucked up. But they do eat people. That's yeah. I Let's see, but yeah. So with that, we're very much seeing that Rick really did. He became very hardened when you know they were about to one of there was the heavily it was heavily implied that his son would be raped right in front of him, before them being killed. So yeah, one can understand, and it is interesting, and it's like he was a farmer, he was retired, he was all like, I don't do that sort of job anymore, Chief. And to see him like this is the most um, let's go with harsh that we've seen him so far. Yeah, I think that pretty well covers it. Yeah, scene by scene. So, I thought they did a really great job at the start, like really capturing. We see like these close-ups, and there's a little bit of light, but it's very like it captures the feeling of being locked up in this tight space, no windows, um, you know, which like I know some people disagree, but I don't think you should have to make do with Mac OS X. Is that what it's called? Shit, whatever. It was a bad joke anyway. Not sure it loses a lot in a bad telling, but yeah, they prepare, and then we, and it was such a great joke because like I was looking forward to seeing them fight their way out, and then expectation subversion, a smoke grenade is thrown down without them. It even before the door is open. So when the door is open, they can't really fight, and so few of them are. It was only like four of them that were taken. It's manageable amount, and let's see. I think, and later we do get the fight. So it puts in our minds that they're gonna fight their way out of Terminus. First we just think they're gonna fight their way out of the locked the train car, whatever it was. Um, but by the end, they are fighting their way out of the entire Terminus camp. And I think that might just about. Let's see. Then we have the yeah. They so they're you know zip tied up, and dragged in, and just fantastic like use of the cinematography is excellent. But another episode directed by Greg Nicotero, just fantastic. I don't think I've disliked a single episode he's directed. Um, yeah, I think the just the way that it captures, it genuinely is such a you know disturbing situation to be so much at the mercy of people who you've already seen are capable of tremendous cruelty. And yeah, they get locked. Yeah, they get put in the other room, and you know the the bat to the back of the head, and then slice open, blood pouring out. And according to IMDb trivia, the actors did not know um, that there would be blood spraying out of the prosthetic. So they were shocked when the film was being when the scene was being when the film was being seen. Yeah, and they did a really great job of like you're counting down. It's like, oh no, they're gonna get there, and they keep almost batting the shit, my fucking memory. I think was it maybe nope, just I do not remember. But yeah, one of our survivors. And the we have the thing about we see that Rick managed to hide a sharp object in his footwear, and he sneaks it out, and like they do a really great job. Like they push it as far as it'll go before it gets like comical um with how long and it's one of those things. Like I don't think it was unrealistic because it does take a while. um I've never had the pleasure of being invited to cutting open zip ties that I had been tied with. But yeah, from what I understand, they are made to be very, very difficult to, yeah. So I think that pretty well brings us to, um, yeah, the part of it is also just it's such a fucked up way to die, um, yeah, bat, and then the blood drained, and we know that after that they're going, like we learn later in the episode that they're cannibals. So yeah, evidently they're going to then you know yeah, eat them. um and yeah, I mean, I can sort of see, like, let's see, if they must decapitate them not long after to make sure that they, or I guess just destroy the brain some other way, and then they can start. Yeah. Oh boy, that wasn't the meat that was being served at the welcoming committee, was it? I hope not. God damn. Um, who was it that said that human flesh tastes just like chicken? I can never remember if that was like an actual cannibal or if that was like a joke in a movie or something. There was like a time where serial killers were in so many movies and TV shows that we started having, you know, really fucked up jokes like that. Jesus Christ. Um, but yeah, the let's see. Um, yeah, the thing with yeah, the leader. Did I mention Gareth? I think his name is. Did I mention in my one of my videos on near the end of the season before this? They really did a great job casting him because he really does have this, like, his face invites trust. Like you feel like, okay, this is someone that we can, you know, yeah, he and then when he turns it dark, um, as he does in yeah, this episode and also before, yeah, it's just really goddamn, um, yeah, and he, yeah, the thing about you don't have to do this, and yeah, he refuses to not, which is also I feel like an important moment for, because like hypothetically, I guess if you didn't have the line in there at all, I don't know if I would have necessarily thought of it because they've already done some really evil shit. But if you had Bob say, you don't have to do this, and Gareth, express that, okay, maybe there is another way, and then the episode still has a bunch of them like gunned down, and it might be like, okay, I don't know, but their own leader says there's no other way, kill or be killed. And yeah, he and the other termites really thought they were going to be the butcher, not the cattle. And yeah, Rick and the survivors really Uno reversed card that whole motherfucker. Yeah, I think that pretty well brings it. So yes, the thing about, so you bury a bag. It was big, looked heavy. What was in the bag and where was it buried? At first, Rick doesn't want to say, but then, Jesus Christ. It's one of those things because like he realizes, no, Rick's not gonna, if I do something to Rick, he's just not gonna talk. Which I feel like I've also heard there is like psychological studies that say that it's you're less likely to get credible actionable intelligence if you torture the the person themselves. I feel like I've heard there's a thing about, but if you torture someone they care about, that can work. And obviously, I'm against all kinds of torture. I think violence should only ever be a last resort in real life. In media, I can find it cathartic when we see the good guys use violence against the bad guys. He's gonna, Gareth, if you're not careful playing with that knife, you're gonna poke someone's eye out. Oh, that's what you were hoping for. Gotcha. And yeah, ultimately Rick does give the information, and I quite like the line, I can take you there. Just, it's just, you don't know. If you don't try, you'll never know if something like that might work. And then, they're about to, bash in the head of the next one with the bat. And now they have to run because there's an explosion, and cut to opening credits. Love the new opening credits, by the way. Yeah, they there's yeah, it feels like we're heading into something new here. So that's very cool. But that is a fantastic, like this show and these fucking cuts from the opening into the opening credits. Like there was also earlier there was that one where we saw the I'm afraid I forget her name, but the girl and the zombie that we later realized she thought they were playing. Yeah, I think that pretty well brings us to, so yeah, we have you have the thing about he says that he's just not, he can't kill right now, which is understandable, and Carol, she's very much, by now, early on, she hadn't completely come into her own yet, but by now, yeah, very much the realist, the yeah, one that tells it like it is. And yeah, they go a little further and they see, the guy, and love that she manages to wait until the radio, yeah, as soon as he's done talking on the radio rather than interrupting him, which would obviously immediately give away to, I want to say her name was Cynthia, that something happened. But instead, like Carol stops him, and then Cynthia says something, and then the guy just doesn't respond, which, like, okay, that does it didn't sound like the kind of thing you had to respond to. And it's not like they have unisols to trick the person on the other end of the radio. And I think that pretty well covers. Yeah. The whole thing with, so they tie him up in the corner. Well, not quite the corner. Nobody puts baby in the corner. And, yeah, she goes out there like fucking. What's a good way to combine the names Carol and Rambo? Carambo. She goes all Carambo on Terminus. Like, god damn. And yeah, very clever. She goes and finds one of the no longer walking dead and smears the guts on her. She was going to do that anyway, but now she has an excuse to do it. And we see the so she she sets up the that is it called a bottle rocket? It's been so long. Yeah, when I was a kid, I did sometimes just New Year's Eve. Oh right. Is that one of those things where Americans don't? Y'all do it on like 4th of July or something? Yeah, we do it on New Year's Eve here in Denmark. But yeah. And I never bought one in English, only Danish. But yeah, she sets it up and shoots a hole in the big what's it called, gas tank, gas container. Fires the rocket, causes the explosion that we heard before the opening credits, and just fantastic. Let's see. There's also the part where she let's talk. So back in the cabin, the guy starts talking, and he's trying to intimidate, but he also does say, just get in the car and leave, which I can't help but wonder if that's a trap, because like he already doesn't think that this guy's going to be much of a threat, so why send him away unless there's some like I think, and yeah, when he starts talking about, you're gonna, if you're not willing to kill, you're gonna die today. And like, face comes close, is like, what the fuck did you just say to me? You gonna kill me? And then, he also says the baby's gonna die. Jesus Christ, these motherfuckers. Yeah. Goddamn termites. Okay, so yeah, I think I think that might be about, certainly, yeah. So Rick has managed to cut all the way through. Can I just say, I think I've said it in earlier videos on these episodes. I do really love when a TV show does that. Shows, okay, so this character could do this thing, and then later realize, okay, they did it. It just wasn't shown. Because just it was something I also really loved. They would do on Prison Break, for example. Just wonderful little but yeah, and he kills the two of them and says, let him turn. And not long after, we do see him turned. And he's going to stay turned, Pony Boy. And I did think, are they going to have a thing of like Rick is going to regret not finishing him off? Yeah, I get it. It's, revenge. But so far it doesn't seem like, I guess it's possible it'll happen in an upcoming episode because they did make sure, he has a recognizable appearance. Even if he hadn't gotten a dedicated frame that really focused on him, if he appears in a zombie walking crowd, we're gonna be able to pick him out. It's not Where's Waldo, and I think that might bring us to. Let's see. There was another thing with that scene. Yeah, so fucked up when they, look around and they find the human body parts. Yeah, Jesus Christ. This show really knows how to have just some of the most fucked up shit that we've ever seen. Not just like recently, but just Jesus Christ. And yeah, they all arm themselves, and I think that might be when we see. Yeah, so back in the car, they're getting ready to fight their way out, and we have that conversation. What is the cure? Because what if something happens to Eugene? Also, I liked when he's like working on the lock mechanism or something like that. And again, love the way he talks. Just very. I I hesitate to even say autistic coded. I feel like I'm not sure they've said it so far, but I feel like he probably is autistic. And that's not an. It's so fucking annoying how conservatives have all this fucking bigotry. When I say autistic, I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that like neutrally. There's nothing wrong with being autistic. And there are a number of people who are autistic or otherwise, working in, important positions because of some of the, there are certain things that they're incredibly good at that make them very well equipped for that. But and he explains some, but we do see later there's that exchange really, or line, not yet. Don't tell them the whole truth yet. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't theorize too much. Yeah, I guess we'll see. I think that might bring us to, but yeah, that was the way that the three of them, Eugene was willing to say a little bit, but the other two were like, don't say it. And I think, yeah, so Mr. Radio manages to jump because the other guy's like checking, and suddenly, because yeah, they only tied his hands, they didn't tie his feet, they didn't tie his shoelaces together while he was giving an address at the UN about how America is amazing and the rest of the world sucks, and like, oh my god, this fucking high school bullshit, Jesus Christ, god damn it. Moving on. Yeah, he, he gets a hold of Judith and just like, god fucking damn it. They know how to push our buttons. Not only does he threaten Judith, now physically, not only verbally, we see her cry and look in distress, and now I know there are laws surrounding this, so like I'm thinking, the actual baby was only like, it was only a very, very short time that she was in any kind of distress at all. And yeah, but it's still like, goddamn, like an upset baby is, there's certain visuals and yeah, sights and sounds that just really like cut to the fucking bone and just like really fuck with our brain chemistry, and we're just like, oh fuck this guy, goddamn, he gotta die, and in the worst kind of way. And I don't know, the fact that we didn't see the body, I am a little worried that could he be lying about killing him? Because like, why doesn't he want her to check? I feel like, or at least I feel like we're supposed to think that maybe later it will be revealed that he did. Um, but yeah, because you could easily rewrite it to where she opens the door and sees he's dead, and either she says you really did it, or he says I did it. I found it in myself. Something like that. Um, yeah, and the part where he has to go outside, god damn it. And he manages to get back in, and it is clever because, like, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not sure were there more than two walkers out there, because like we saw two like hit on different sides of the, yeah, one on each side of the door, and then when the door opens we see, I think two. I think that's just the two that were there, and yeah, he's fucking motivated. Goddamn, he would give anything to protect Judith. So yeah, one of them gets shoved onto the spikes, and yeah, I that was so fucking well done, because like the moment that I saw the door open and him go out, I was thinking, well, he's dead meat, like Jesus Christ. But as soon as he came back, it was like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess we did only really see two out there. It's one of those things, because like we see so many zombies, we see zombie hordes in the episode, so yeah, we like temporarily think, oh, the horde's out there, but like, no, we never saw the horde right outside the camp. Like, okay, yeah, fairly close by there was a horde, but they went to the explosion. They heard the explosion and walked there. There were only two left. I think two or three, something like that. So yeah, really nicely done there. And yeah, uh, Carambo going, through the, yeah, moving right next to walkers, and I like the bit inside Terminus, and I like the bit where there's like one or two of them are like plugged like real close to her, so she like ducks into the in the building, and then she snipes one and takes out another with like a what's it called, controlled burst, and that of course does attract some walkers, but she just shuts the door um, right in front of them. So yeah, um, or to translate from French, something about love you. Um, remember The Mask? Maybe I should stop referencing. Well, okay, that one I feel like isn't obscure, at least. Um, fuck, I watched that movie a lot when it was fairly recent. Damn, 20 times maybe. Yeah. Uh, on like VHS tape, I think I had it on. Anyway, yes, the yeah, and she goes and gets the crossbow and runs into yeah, let's see. I think Shit. My wrists are too fucked right now to check. But the one who was also on TNG for a while, you know. Um, that I think actually does also. I think that was the very first thing we saw before we saw. Yeah, there was the then and now, and then right. And I guess I should note. So Arts Cafe. Thank you for letting me know that there would be post-credit scenes because yeah, this one definitely had one. Right now, I actually forget if this was the first, but certainly there was one here. So yeah, um, I was careful to make sure I saw it, and yeah, very very cool. Oh my god, I can hardly wait to see. That's yeah. It's one of those things, like I think I mentioned in the other videos. I love that character so much. I don't want them to overexpose him. So far, they've done a really good job on not overexposing any character. So I think they're gonna be able to keep that up. But just like some of the best acting of the show has been this particular actor, and some of the most tragic like stuff was with this character. Um, yeah, I think that does. Yes, so you have the then and the now, and then and you see yeah how horrible it was, and then then it goes to now, and yeah, she explains to Karambo it really was a sanctuary, and then in came this gang, and then they started figuring you're either the butcher or the yeah. And that was also, she said, yeah, they raped them for weeks, laughing, and later on, we also see in the later flashback to then, we also see, yeah, they put her back in there, and then they grab the young woman, and she cries, "Not again," So yeah, um, and it's one of those things where so obviously you don't want to imply that being raped turns you and your friends into cannibals, but at the same time it's not the first time. There was the god damn it, I don't know how I'm forgetting all these names, but there was the it looked like the governor was going to rape, um, and she hasn't, and obviously they didn't go through with the rape, but being almost raped is still really messed up. They explored what it does to someone to you know yeah um, to go through an experience like that. um, let's see, and yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's about how, and I want to make clear I'm not talking about like, oh, some people are just too weak or something. Like, different circumstances can change how, so basically, like, I think it was maybe the fact that afterwards she was still able to, you know, she got support from, at first not so much from him, but from, they had a fairly stable situation, and there was love there. And here, they were in a really precarious situation for weeks, and yeah, you know, um, so they ended up losing all faith in humanity. Um, Whereas, our survivors have managed to maintain at least enough. Like, some of them have, yeah, been very distressed, obviously. I think that pretty well covers. But yeah, and the thing with um, I did definitely appreciate that. It's only once she realizes that Karambo is a woman rather than a man. Obviously she's gonna assume, someone doing this kind of thing, that's got to be like a guy, but it's a hardened woman. And it's only then that she like. I mean, I don't think she's even trying to. I don't know. I'm not sure what she's if she thinks she could accomplish something, but I feel like it reads to me as she she needs to say out loud, we didn't mean for this to happen. It wasn't supposed to be like this. This was supposed to be a refuge. You were supposed to be able to come here and be safe, but then they took over, and we just kind of snapped, because like she it does bother her, obviously. She doesn't like what they've become. And yeah, you know, there's a struggle, and Carol shoots her in the leg. Like, Jesus, she really does not fuck around anymore. They do first blood. And in her defense, But yeah, um, she opens the door and just blends into the crowd of walkers whilst she's um, attacked. And yeah, that was also really fucked up when we saw there was this woman, and we saw like the zombie was like eating her throat while she's like screaming and crying, like, Jesus. I think right. And yeah, um the mentally unstable guy that they open uh yeah, one of these a shipping container, isn't that what it is? Whatever. They open that one, and a guy jumps out and says something like, "We're the same," and that is the guy who we see in the flashback attack. Um, and that was also, yeah, the fact that Rick now has to be convinced into letting out prisoners. Like, I mean, those aren't termites, obviously, but yeah, we the audience realize, yeah, in that case there was reason to hold a prisoner. Yeah. But also the fact that Rick, like, at one point, he sees, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 of the termites, walking and gunning down zombies, and he waits for the right moment, and then he guns them down, like, kind of gratuitous. Like, I feel like there's probably so many walkers that it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to um, get back control, let alone be a threat to Rick and the other survivors. But that's how he, and that is it. Yeah, that's where his head is at right now, and that's kind of interesting because that's what the termites were doing. They were also. I mean, they went further, obviously. Not saying they weren't, but they were also not. You know, I mean, Rick himself doesn't say, you're either um, butcher or cattle, but he doesn't behave like no part of him thinks that, so um, yeah. And clever of Radio Guy to pretend like, because he knows, okay, they heard about, you know, Samurai and Capman. They were on a deadline. Not every superhero can be a winner. Um, so he claims they're the only two they got. Control how much information the enemy has. And I think that pretty well brings us to, yeah. It was also really compelling when, he manages to knock down Radio Man, and, he says, I don't want to do it. And also the fact that Radio Man's like, maybe you do have it in you. Maybe you will survive. Like, he's not even, like, this fucking Heath Ledger Joker motherfucker. Like, just, Jesus Christ. Apparently not scared of death, and just, like, wants to, drive this other person to kill someone, and then he'll be happy. And it is, like, it really, like, stuff like what they go through on this show can really fuck with your head. And I think that might bring us to the right. And I will say, at first in the post credits, I was like, okay, fine, play your cards close to the chest. I don't even need to know. Maybe I don't even want to know who the guy in the black mask is. And then the mask comes out. I was like, okay, thank you. I'm glad I know. Yeah. The they meet back up with the Carambo, and she says, I have to show you something, And it was also great when they do get the weapons back, and they do manage to talk Rick out of, and of killing the remaining termites. But yeah, I think that, yes. So she gets them back to the cabin, and I'm a cornball, so sue me. I really liked seeing the people reunited, all the hugs, and just, like, yeah, uh just so sweet, as because, like, yeah, before. And I wonder if that's going to affect Rick, because that was obviously also part of why he got, actually, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and use, because I saw someone use the term feral, about how Rick got after seeing his son almost raped. The what's the word? Yeah, he thought Judith was dead, and now he knows that she isn't. And knowing is half the battle.